please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, back home on the Wall Street, a last-hour rally pushed the markets in the green. The Nifty ended just shy of the 10,400 mark and was aided by a sharp reversal in the banking stocks. Sensex too gained close to 0.5%. The mid-caps mildly underperformed yesterday and the index closed flat. But remember, it is the day of expiry today and the cues will be really important. Ekta joins us to tell us how the picture looks. Ekta, good morning.
Well, just to recap what exactly you said, Anisha, and thanks very much for that. The Nifty and the Sensex and the Bank Nifty ended in the green yesterday. The mid-cap index also recovered from the day's low by the end of trade. And the markets were resilient as compared to what we saw in the European markets by the close of trade. And the rupee, in fact, also was quite flat on a day-on-day basis. It was at around 64.76 versus around 64.79 day-on-day. However, like you mentioned, it is the Feb expiry. So already it's been a very tough Feb series. So the Nifty is down around 6% The mid-cap index has lost around 9%. We've seen the Bank Nifty fall around 9%, and the PSU Bank Index, because of the entire PNB scam, has lost around 15% in the Feb series. This morning, the global cues are not that enthusing. So we have the US markets, which ended lower. We have Brent crude, which is still hovering at that $64 per barrel mark. So we don't really have any sort of incremental positive which is coming in around from Brent crude. What I would be watching for today is then that the SGX is currently indicating a negative start. I would also watch for what's happening with the rupee and the bond market, because we're seeing that kind of impact or negative impact come in terms of the depreciation for the rupee. And over that, the macros that came out overnight also don't seem to be that supportive. So for example, the RBI minutes said that a couple of statements included that the fiscal deficit has overshot this year and it's likely to next year as well. Plus, inflation is in danger of getting out of reach in the next few months. So that is kind of hawkish statements which came out from the RBI minutes. Plus, there is the GST collection data, which is expected to move higher for the month of Jan, but nonetheless stands at around 82,000 odd crores. So I'd watch out for the IT stocks. Plus, we have the Nifty inclusion and exclusion data. Aurobindo, Ambuja, Bosch going to be excluded, whereas Grasim, Titan, Bajaj, Finserv will be added. So based on what we're seeing today, I would look at the Nifty support at, say, the 200-day moving average. Plus, the flows continue to be negative for us from the FII stable. FIIs have net sold over 1,200 crores yesterday, and overall in the month of Feb, say I think from the 5th of Feb, they've sold over 13,000 crores, and it's been a net sell every day since then.
All right, Ekta, it's been a net sell every day since then. But what are the stocks that you're watching out for in trade today?
Well, I'll be watching out for the Nifty exclusion and addition data. So all of those stocks would be in focus that I just mentioned, the likes of Aurobindo, etc. Separately, the ED or the Enforcement Directorate has said they've attached assets worth 100 crores of REI Agro in the bank fraud case from 2015. Again, I would be watching out for the PSU banking space. And we have more data that the IT department has attached 141 bank accounts and FDs of the Nirav Modi Group. Allahabad Bank has made a disclosure 517 crores of loan exposure to the Rotomac Group. Committee of Creditors, and this is CNBC TV18 exclusive, has disqualified Liberty House bid for Bhushan Power. Why is this? Where are we talking about from a listed perspective? It's Tata Steel, which has offered 17,000 crore upfront cash payment for Bhushan Power as well. So maybe that would be in focus. Siemens board has approved sale of mobility business and rail traction drive business. Vardhman Special Steels has approved, issue of shares via QIP at 140 rupees per share. PNB Care has placed their ratings under watch. Cient has reduced investment limit to 49% from 100% for non-residents, and Bank of India has clarified that the Rotomac loan has been classified as an NPA already for them in 2015 and 16. So out of this, all you can see is that global cues will probably weigh and financials will continue to be in focus.
Well, yes, global cues are expected to weigh down. SGX 50 for starters is suggesting a half-point downtick, but also keep an eye out on the Shanghai markets. They opened after the Lunar Week holiday, up around 1% on that. But on that note, let's slip into a quick break. Up next, we'll get you an exclusive conversation with Uday Kotak on his reaction to the 11,400 crore rupee scam, alleged fraud at Punjab National Bank.
Weakness continues in the Asian markets. In fact, the Hang Seng has opened with a cut of nearly 500 points. So that is something that we'll watch out for. The Shanghai, that one's up about 40 points, but as Anisha told you just before going into break, that they have opened after a week for after the week holiday of the Lunar New Year. So that is some bit of catch-up taking place out there and adjustments, so to say, because it's opened after a week. But by and large, there is a fair amount of weakness. The Nikkei down almost 300 points as we speak. If you take a look at the Korean markets, also down by about two-thirds of a percent. Similar is the cuts, level of cuts that we're seeing in both the Straits as well as the Taiwanese indices. The SGX Nifty indicated a cut of 50 points at the start. That maintains with a 50-point cut at the start. In fact, only gone lower to about 56 points. So that is something we'll definitely watch out for and where the momentum lies as we end this expiry session. But what we'll keep an eye out on is the commentary coming in from Uday Kotak, and he says, I am embarrassed as a banker. That's his reaction to the 11,400 crore rupee alleged fraud at Punjab National Bank. In an exclusive conversation with Shireen Bhan ahead of this year's Chasing Growth annual conference held by the group, Kotak also hinted that there could be further correction in the stock markets itself, and it will only make Dalal Street more healthy.
I remember having a chat with you in exactly the same spot last year, and we were talking about the governance premium that India enjoys. In light of what we're seeing happen today, specifically with the public sector banking stocks and its after effect on corporate India in general, do you believe that there is a loss of that governance premium?
I think what's happening in India now from the point of view of institutional investors and investors in general is that the number of companies which would get governance premium would narrow. And I think India overall has to really do a series of things to ensure that we don't get governance discount. And in that context, I'm happy that on behalf of a committee which was formed by SEBI, which I had the privilege of chairing, we have submitted our corporate governance report. And we are awaiting the government and SEBI to take the next steps on that towards a better governed corporate India.
Do you think that there is a need for urgency today? And you know, I remember listening to what you had to say in Delhi a couple of days ago, where you said that as a banker you stand ashamed about what has happened as far as the NPA situation is concerned and how the NPA situation has gone out of control, so to speak. You said you were embarrassed, you were ashamed. Again, I ask you this in light of what we've seen happen, because it's not just negligence. It seems to point towards complicity.
You know, I continue to believe that I am embarrassed as a banker, and even more as a part of the financial sector in terms of what has happened in India, especially based on the reports as of now, which is in addition to the whole issue about stress in the financial sector. I think we have to really think about two major areas of the future for banking and finance. That is around governance and ownership of banks in India. And we have talked about it. I think the time has come now for a significant policy and institutional thinking on that rather than more talk. There's a hell of a lot of talk which has gone on. And without pointing fingers, which seems to be the name of the game right now, whether it is the regulator or the banker or anybody else, I think the focus has to be to find institutional framework and a policy kind of approach to fixing some of the key issues in Indian banking.
What would be a healthy correction?
I think we have seen a close to 8 to 10% correction in the big caps and probably a 20 to 30% correction in the small and mid caps. So somewhere in the single digit corrections from here is what I would, in the big caps, is what I would see as getting the markets to a fundamentally more healthy level. Now, whether there's 5%, 10%, I think that's something which would give fundamental corrections. But keep in mind, beyond fundamentals, technicals can move markets on either side quite a bit. And fundamentals are not static as well. It also depends on a lot of changing factors. So you've got to keep on moving your fundamental value with the changes. The good news as I see it today, okay, is over the last 3 or 4 years, whenever we would talk about chasing growth, we had a wonderful macroeconomic tailwind in our favor. this time around, as I speak to you, I think micro has picked up. We are seeing growth on the ground, but the macro tailwinds are not as favorable as they were over the last 3 years.
Well, on to the latest in the race for Bhushan Power and Steel. Sources tell us that the firm's lenders will take a final call on the bids for Bhushan Power next month. Also, Liberty House's bid is believed to have been disqualified. Ritu Singh joins us with more details. Ritu, it seems that Tata Steel is still in the lead to buy Bhushan Power. What are you picking up?
That's right. Tata Steel is very much in the lead to buy out Bhushan Power and Steel's assets. In a committee of creditors meeting held with the IRP, it was decided to reject the bid offered by Liberty House without opening the bid because of the fact that the Liberty House bid for Bhushan Power's assets came after the deadline had ended. This really sets an example for other cases to follow where bids, bankers are clearly sending out a signal that bids will not be accepted if they do not meet the criteria laid down in the IBC norms. Now understand that Tata Steel is, as of now, the highest bidder with an offer of 17,000 crore upfront cash payment and 7,500 crore equity infusion into Bhushan Power, miles ahead of what JSW Steel had offered for the company, and therefore negotiations will continue with Tata Steel. And we understand that 6th of March is the D-Day where the Committee of Creditors will be meeting again to evaluate the final offer as far as Tata Steel is concerned and then present the case to the NCLT.
All right, Ritu, thanks a lot for that. But let's move on to the latest coming in from the goods and services tax front. After showing signs of a trend reversal in December, the GST mop-up has dropped yet again for the month of January. GST collection now stands at 82,000 crore rupees so far. That's a sharp decline from the December revenue figure of 86,000 crore rupees. Also, the number of returns for January filed till February 20th stands at 54 lakhs. So we'll watch out for that trend going forward fairly clearly, because a drop on that may indicate some sort of fiscal weakness, Anisha.